So, hello everyone. Today we are going to be talking about using metadata to achieve business results. Now, behind the scenes, the development of processes and procedures can be laborious. We know this. It requires highly skilled and sometimes scarce programming expertise. It also has a direct impact on the success or failure of a digital workplace adoption. So this webinar, it looks at the development of processes through a different lens. It shows the creation of workflow features to address both records management and data privacy. This webinar will explore the functionality you should be looking for when creating an effective metadata infrastructure. So a bit about myself. I'm a solutions engineer at Concept Searching. My background is from software engineering, and I moved into pre-sales stroke solutions engineering 8 years ago, where it's all about understanding technology and product positioning. A few housekeeping rules to begin with. We will be recording this webinar and we'll send all registrants a link to the recording and a link to the presentation. If you have questions during the webinar, please type them into the chat box. If we can't answer them today, we will follow up with a response within the next few days. So our agenda for today, well, we'll start off by talking a bit about the company, the value of semantic multi-term metadata. This session will actually examine how to achieve highly accurate and reusable metadata, auto classification on the fly, scenarios, and deployment. I'll then go on to mention what makes us different, and then we will finish off with a demo. So who is Concept Searching? Well, we were founded in 2002 as a search engine, and it was our founders' interest in statistics and mathematical analysis that led to building a search engine that could index large amounts of content and return it with some great context. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough, so if I die in the process, I'm sure someone else will take over. In November, Concept Searching was acquired by Netrix Corporation, which is one of the leading global security and user auditor companies in the world. So we're proud and we're pleased to be part of Netrix. We're focused on metadata generation, auto classification, and taxonomy management, with many of the world's largest corporations deploying our platform. Our software is platform agnostic and not a SharePoint only platform. It integrates with all versions of SharePoint with full product support in the form of both a farm solution and a provider hosted add-in. Ours is the only solution in the market with a fully integrated statistical multi-term auto classification platform, which we use to deliver metadata-driven search and governed solutions. Our unique technology can figure out what organization's content is about. It can determine the meaning within content. In other words, the concepts within the content. That's what we call compound term processing. And it can automatically tag documents with those concepts. Our technology platform allows you to classify content across many different systems and make sense of that content, allowing you to leverage all sorts of different information for business processes. Now, analysts like our product. For example, we've been recognized recently by Forrester as a key provider in the text analytics space. And we are part of the Microsoft certified independent software vendor community. And we're also one of the few charter members of the Global Microsoft Content Services Partner Program. So there is a need for automated tools. I thought it would be nice to start off with something like this. I like the following quote. So if we read it, automated tools for automated tools for handling the flood of information are the only solution to coping with the increased demands for compliance, more targeted discovery, and better business intelligence. The digital workspace has been viewed as unsuccessful, despite the fact that analysts keep up a running commentary on its benefits. It has been talked about for years, yet organizations still struggle to understand what it is really about and how to go about achieving those benefits. The digital workspace was supposed to increase productivity. Well, productivity is at an all-time low. What do we have? Stagnant environments. We have to address urgent challenges such as cybersecurity and the compliance requirements of General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. But very little ever changes in improving the processes that end users use or don't use every day. Often processes have been in place for years, some never used, and some now put aside as they no longer work. And users are told to get the job done, but not necessarily how to get the job done in the most effective and most productive and easiest way. The workforce now tends to go find their own solutions, the road less traveled, resulting in significant security risks and problems for different groups in an organization. So what are we going to look at today? Well, two areas that all organizations must address: records management and protection of privacy data. Now, we know that every company does things differently, but I'm pretty confident that in your organization, we would find a process improvement or two looking at records management that has been around forever, or protection of privacy data that is now key. I think most of you know what we do, but for those of you who don't, we generate a metadata and classify data to taxonomies. That's it in a sentence, that's in a nutshell. But what does it really mean? Well, metadata is our starting point. If you don't have accurate, meaningful, and consistent metadata, you haven't moved off step one. Now, there are several solutions that generate metadata, but what's the quality? The underlying secret to our software is a process we call compound term processing. So it can go out to all your documents, figure out what they're about by finding the common phrases that are in those documents. The conceptClassifier platform is based on sound mathematical principles, and we use a statistical engine for statistical analysis in the context of business intelligence. Now, a lot of search engines and classification tools available offer just keyword matches. So they match just a single term. We can't actually find so we can actually find meaning in content by matching multiple terms, by matching multiple phrases. So it's not just words in isolation. In this example, where other search engines would look at triple, heart, and bypass as three different entities, as three different meanings. So triple could mean three, it could mean 3 scoops of ice cream, it could mean a number of things. The word heart can have its own meaning, and the word bypass could refer to a road or a highway. The conceptClassifier technology looks at the phrase triple, heart, bypass as a discrete entity, as a compound term, which is a surgical procedure, a surgical concept. This is what compound term processing is about. Our technology is about metadata and about organizing metadata based on those very well founded mathematical principles. We use these principles in our unique intellectual property And this enables you to get a statistical view of all the content you have in your organization to find out what it's about. Excuse me. We also have the ability to suggest keywords, acronyms, and multi-term metadata that enable administrators to include content triggers that are valuable but were not entered into the taxonomy as terms. So what is the value of metadata? Well, creating a metadata infrastructure to support all unstructured, semi-structured content and often structured depending on client requirements. So you can see from the advantages on the slide here, we've got elimination of cost and errors associated with end user tagging, metadata managed and metadata managed and changed in one place. And some of these you can actually retrieve using the term store, most you cannot. So let's go to the next slide. Right, okay. So a manual metadata approach will fail 95% of the time. One of the problems with manual tagging content is that typically upper management doesn't understand the financial repercussions of poor metadata and the management of it. It's costly. Now, this diagram, it illustrates why manual metadata entry is not in the best interest of organizations. We know from my experience that 90% of organizations want to improve search and are working on content lifecycle management, yet most use manual tagging. Frankly, it's not going to work. What's wrong with it? I hear you ask. Well, with manual entry, it's inconsistent, subjective, expensive, open to malicious compliance. By this, I mean that the end users will usually select the first option from a drop-down list because they see it as it has no perceived value by end users. So let's go into a bit more detail. Just metadata tagging when end users are involved is typically a hit or miss, unless the organization has a drop-down menu that the end user is supposed to use to select the correct organizationally defined metadata. But as we just discussed on the previous slide, they don't. They select the first option and go merrily on their way. Rarely do they read the document to understand the aboutness of the content. So metadata is often missing, strung together using poor technologies, or erroneously entered by end users. The result of all these scenarios is that critical business information cannot be found, so cannot be used. Acceptance of mediocrity seems to suffice for most of us. However, in defense of our end users, one of our clients had 73,000 site collections and 5,300 retention codes, making it just about impossible for their end users to correctly tag a document. Compliance requirements are changing rapidly. A few years ago, no one had ever heard of GDPR. And in the US, most of the states are now creating their own privacy laws. Governance on how to handle privacy data or records does not necessarily trickle down to the person tagging the content. The end result is documents that contain governance actions are not always tagged as such, with the potential to cause serious harm to an organization. That is, massive data breaches, non-compliance, audits, and regulatory fines. Mistagging of documents impacts every user who performs search. How many times do you shake your head and wonder where some of the results came from? Most search engine indexes are not tuned to identify concepts, subjects, topics. So end users either get wrong information or no information at all. It may very well exist, but they simply can't find it. Now, what's scary is that executives are making business decisions using faulty data. So this causes repercussions for non-compliance, and it's cost ineffective. Tagging volumes of content on a daily basis is non-productive, and there is a cost associated with the time spent on tagging documents. Tagging errors means documents may never be found. Poor business decisions are made. There are increased levels of organizational risk and non-compliance. So how does our magic happen? Now, as I mentioned, we call it compound term processing. But today, for the sake of simplicity, we'll just call it magic. As content is ingested or created, we generate the multi-term metadata and auto-classify your content to a taxonomy or multiple taxonomies. For example, one may be an enterprise taxonomy that contains all the metadata in your organization, or one that may be called cleanup that contains all the content that can be safely deleted. You can then easily make changes to the taxonomy that will influence how content is categorized and what to do with it once it is categorized. The technology will even try to tell you of terms or concepts that you may have missed or just never thought of. Or if you've made changes, you can see the impact your changes have made. So for data security and compliance, and for improved search, in fact, for any application that uses metadata, our technology framework is a real benefit. You see, concept searching believes that you need to take control of your information in order to make it valuable and usable in your organization. And the way to do that is to have a controlled vocabulary. And this is really key. Without a controlled vocabulary, your content is just a mess. Having a controlled vocabulary, which we will build out as a taxonomy, will create the backbone for all the content you have, allowing you to tag it, organize it, and make it useful. Today, all we want is an improvement on how we process data. I just want to mention another quote. I like my quotes. Information which is not communicated is valueless, and information that cannot be found is similarly useless. Robert Brown and Stevens, Records Management, 4th edition. So why do you need to automate process? Why? Well, to save money or time. If the process needs approval and consensus from multiple function areas, then money will be the compelling factor. The useful reason is that some decisions are usually complex and can't be taken by one person because of skills, legal, and other reasons. But there are also other reasons, such as reducing errors, improving morale. Yes, that really is a business driver. Enabling staff to work on higher priority projects, eliminating support issues, data protection, and the list goes on. Also, as you expand your footprint in social networks, you should also ensure that the way you capture social media records is manageable and effective. Just like traditional records, they need to be indexed and archived within context to make searching for them easy. Applying metadata to tag content serves this purpose. If you are tracking social media, including all forms of texting, it's not typically captured with metadata which is non-existent. So you have a problem from the get-go. As we know, the manual application of metadata, once again mentioning it, is time-consuming and unproductive, and users and record managers have difficulty keeping up with the onslaught of content. This results in increased errors, misfiled or lost records, or documents that were never declared records. Hey, consider this scenario in the for-profit context. A customer, they air a grievance on a social media platform, and it turns into a customer lawsuit. The social thread needs to be captured as a record. But what if the conversation started on a different Twitter account days prior and wasn't captured as part of the record? Is the record incomplete? Should this portion of the thread be included? Individual records managers, or other employees will often have to make these kinds of determination. Another scenario regarding the impact of undeclared or erroneously declared records is the impact on support and sales. If a record has never been declared, then it's most likely will it not be found, and in turn can't be used for support or sales, resulting in poor customer support, possibly billing, and sales will not be able to find accurate and associated information regarding the customer or prospect. So to increase productivity and efficiency, staff needs to access content and only the content they need at the time they need it. This is what concept searching calls content in context. So the concept searching approach is fully customizable and identifies unique or industry standard descriptors. Content is automatically meta tagged and classified to the appropriate nodes in a taxonomy based upon the presence of the descriptors, phrases, or keywords from within the content. Once tagged and classified, the content can be managed in accordance with regulatory or government guidelines. The identification of potential information security exposures includes the proactive identification and protection of unknown privacy exposures before they occur in real time as content is created or ingested. Now, most vendors offer similar functionality through the use of regular expressions. We offer over 80 predefined rules, and organizations can write additional ones to address specific content they wish to identify and protect. But that's where most vendors stop. We do not require the writing of regular expressions for every scenario, as they become limited in their functionality. We can use any assortment of terms, phrases, words that are usually unique to the corpus of the content. And this enables organizations to address any type of confidential information that is unique to their businesses. Our workflows are, our workflows are easily created and deployed by business users, typically subject matter experts that know the content of the repository and do not require technical knowledge. Rules can be created in mere minutes and can be easily deployed. So it's now a time for a demo, and I'm going to give you a demo on our workflow feature. So if we move to our demo, so workflows can actually perform an action on a document following a classification decision. So as an example, I'm going to upload some content or some documents into SharePoint, and depending on the content type, based on the metadata properties, they will be routed to their relevant libraries. So I've got an HR library, anything to do with, for example, CVs or human resources or salaries, they will be routed into this particular library. At the moment, you can see it's pretty empty. PI library for sensitive information, also empty. Contracts library for anything to do with contracts. And I've also got a library representing the country with 3 sub-libraries, France, Turkey, and Italy. So documents in different languages, including Turkish, French, and Italian. So these documents will be routed to their respective libraries. Just a point to note that any documents containing sensitive data will be moved into the PII library, and they will safeguard the information that is not supposed to be seen, such as credit card data or national insurance numbers or social security numbers, by automatically detecting and redacting sensitive content from files while keeping the rest of the data intact. And what we're going to do is, so I'm going to upload some content into SharePoint. Let's move back into the document site here and bring up this. So these documents here, they're to do with, like, as you can see, Turkish language, social security, salary, which is the HR, and all sorts of documents. So I'm going to upload this document, or these documents, should I say. So while I'm going to upload, while I'm uploading these documents, while these documents are being processed, I wanted to upload a single document. In fact, if we go to our second tab, I've uploaded a single document to show you the advantages of metadata being automatically applied. Now, if you are an organization that has been relying on manual tagging, forcing the end user to manually tag documents, typically at this point, you would get a prompt. And people, as I mentioned, don't normally like to add metadata. And they're forced to do that, or they cannot save it. So a drop-down menu will appear, making the end users tag the content with the metadata before saving it. And just again emphasizing it, this can bring about some issues in terms of manual tagging. First of all, as I've previously mentioned, it's subjective. For example, a person in HR may choose different tags to someone in marketing, to a user in the technical department because of its subjective nature. And the second issue, as I've already mentioned, is expense. The process of manually tagging a document can take some time, which lowers the user productivity. And another issue, which is probably the worst, is called what we call a malicious compliance, as I mentioned before, where the user may simply select the first option from the drop-down list or leave it as a default, and we can end up with metadata we cannot use or even trust. In fact, we had one organization that chose asbestos, A being the first letter of the alphabet. So that organization could find all documents to do with asbestos, but nothing else. So here, users will be pleasantly surprised to see that instead of having to do that, instead of having to manually add that metadata, because of the work that has already been done by the administrator, the metadata here you can see has already been identified and automatically assigned to the document. And guess what? All the end user would have to do is click save and the document is uploaded. As I said before, a bit like magic to the end user because he doesn't have to do anything. I do also want to point out that most organizations do like to retain the ability to manually tag content, and we do allow for that. So just to quickly show you, I'm going to pull up a taxonomy in the background. You can then simply select a tag that you want to tag the document with, and then just click the select button. However, if you want to make sure that you don't want an organization to have that sort of luxury for that metadata tagging or manual metadata tagging, we can keep that hidden too. So now let's go back and have a look at the destination folders. Let's have a look. If we look at the HR folder, and we can see the document has been uploaded here. If we go to the PIF library, we can see again the social security number. In fact, if I actually open this up, you can see that the text has been redacted. And if we go to the contracts, invoices have been put into this, uprooted or uploaded into this here, and the country one with 3 subfolders, France. You can see in French, those documents have been uprooted, uploaded to their respective folders. Something in Turkish has been uploaded into this subfolder, and the one in Italian has been put into its folder. Okay, so I want to also show you the thing I also want to show you is the difference in searching documents with and without metadata. In fact, this was one of our first value propositions as a company, was to improve our search and findability. You see, as you know, the key to managing your content is being able to find it. And I'm going to show you how we can improve search with consistent and accurate metadata. So let's do that comparison. So I'm going to start off without the metadata with standard metadata refiners or Microsoft search refiners. And I've already got a search here and I've typed in environment protection. So if we do a search, we'll see if we scroll down to the bottom, we've got 831 results. And you can see on the left-hand side that you've got in, let's have a look. If we go back to the top, you have the built-in refiners. Here you can refine your results by author, by size, and so on. Now, there will certainly be a need to refine these results. Now, while these refiners do have some use at times, but they're not generally very helpful. And they're not, and it can be even more difficult if the user is not familiar of what he is looking for because they're not very intuitive. So now let's go to the environment where we have the metadata refiners. So this is the environment. So let's now do the search. I've already typed in environmental protection. Let's click here. Scrolling down, we can see we've still got 831 results. We still have these out-of-box refiners, the result type, author, modified data. Now, with the introduction of metadata, we have metadata refiners that are dynamically generated. We are now able to improve our search with accurate and consistent metadata. So now we can see here, we've got the control vocabulary on the left-hand side. So let's say I'm now interested in documents to do with pollution. So I've just clicked on environmental protection. I've now gone from 831 to 4 clicks, or to 4 results, should I say. If I now want to look at documents that are pertaining to pollution, if I click on that, we've now got 3 results. So you can see very quickly, in a matter of 3 clicks, I was able to refine my results from 831 to just 3. And we noticed that our end users really appreciate this. And it's because it's this kind of filtering process that is very similar to what we go through when we use Amazon or other websites. So that's the end of the demo. Let's now move back into our presentation. Okay, so we're back into our presentation. Oops, I've gone back to this. Bear with me for a second. There we go. So why do we need concept searching? Well, let's review what we have talked about. The compound term processing technologies identifies concepts in context. It automatically generates intelligent metadata as content is created or ingested. It retrieves information you didn't know existed and eliminates end user tagging. The rule-based insight engine eliminates the need for training sets and highly specialized human resources. It auto-categorizes content to one or more taxonomies that were never declared. It reduces the exposure to sensitive and privacy information and therefore avoids data breaches for non-compliance. So this helps in a number of different areas, such as security, records management, improving search, text analytics to find out where your sensitive data is, helping in pre-migration analysis and e-discovery. Any number of different things where you can imagine having better quality is going to help you. So if you don't think automating processing is a good thing, well, did you know that there are 14,000 laws and regulations related to compliance alone, many of which can be challenging to enforce across an enterprise size IT infrastructure. So I encourage you, let's just go to the next slide. I encourage you to look at our website for our up and coming webinars. So please do visit and register. And if you have seen something of interest and you'd like a customized one-to-one demo, then please again visit our website to make a demo request, and I would be more than happy to give you a one-to-one demo. So thank you very much for joining us. Oh, I see, we have a few questions. Let me just go through a couple of these questions. Let's have a look at the first one. Can the same results be achieved using artificial intelligence or machine learning? Well, we actually do use machine learning. Artificial intelligence someday will be there in the future, but it isn't there yet. See, artificial intelligence actually does use metadata, but for most organizations, it's pretty bad metadata. It wouldn't work, and it takes a good long time or a good long while to train the AI. Using our taxonomy workflow, a business can create and test a process in a matter of minutes. That's not the case with AI. Just a few more questions that I'll answer. There's another one which I actually quite like. Other softwares can do the same thing as you have shown, so it's just a matter of cost. Well, you actually have to look very closely at the fine print or what is not said when shopping around for a solution. For example, one vendor boldly states their software uses artificial intelligence. Well, actually, it doesn't. It uses keyword proximity for classification, which is going to give poor results. It uses regular expressions and calls it artificial intelligence. Our technology identifies entities and classifies them. Users can create their own expressions. Bottom line is buyers beware. So 2 more questions I'll answer and then we'll wrap up. Is setting up the workflows as easy as it seems? Yes, it is actually. When the founder of the company developed the software, he created the ability for a business user to use all functionality. Usually the taxonomy administrator is from a business unit, say for example, customer service. These people understand the content, the flows, and exactly what they need. And the last question, will the software notify you when a process has been initiated? Well, actually, yes. You see, the thing is, if you tell it to do that, when you set it up, you can set it to notify one person, a group of people, or an application. So thank you very much for joining us today. And as I mentioned at the start of the webinar, we will be sending an email to all registrants with a link to the webinar recording and the slides in the next couple of days, along with responses to any questions that you may have raised. If you do have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us via our website. Thank you very much. Have a great day.